The reason we exist is because you cannot stay ahead of all threats. So what we do is we block by default.
Hey, what's going on? Here with E-Tech Million. What we got going on is we are going to be going over some notes from breaks, and then we're going to be looking at the results of both of the exams that we took. We took the A1, and if you like, you can go back and you can kind of challenge yourself. And with that, we answer the questions, and then we have the answers in the second clip. Kind of did that with both A1 and A5. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just look at that data, but besides looking at that data, we're going to be looking at a few notes from mod 1, or my mod 1, which was brakes, and then a little bit more of my mod 4 or 5, no, my mod 4, which was engines. So we're going to look at both those and kind of, after a bit, we're going to watch a few crazy videos as well, because it's all about the having optimal, you know what I mean? That's neither here nor there. So let's get to it. So so looking at this is. Okay, so for the vehicle type, when we are referring to the numbers on the thread of the, not the thread, but the side, the walls of the tire, the first letter indicates the type of vehicle. All right, that's what that P is about. Then the width is the next three. The aspect ratio is the next two. The construction is the is that letter. I'm assuming they mean rubber. It's constructed of rubber. The rim diameter follows after that. Load index. I think that means that at 91 miles per hour, that's when the speed ain't all that. And then they got that that S right there for speed rating. All right, let's move on. Brake principle and friction materials. Discuss the energy principle that apply to brakes. Discuss the friction principle that apply to brakes. Describe how brakes can fade due to excessive heat. Describe how deceleration rates are measured. Discuss friction material used in brake systems. Energy in work. Energy is the ability to do work, of course. Work is the transfer of energy from one physical system to another. Kinetic energy is the energy of mass in motion. Energy, which is the ability to perform work, exists in many forms. Let's see, we have that heat or the light, the mechanical, as far as the drill, not the drill, but the hammer and the nail, the sound, the orchestra, or chemical like the gasoline. All right, now 997.2. Kinetic energy increases in direct proportion to the weight of the vehicle. The more it weighs, the faster. The more weighs at the same miles per hour, the more force that's produced. Foot per pound. And that's the same thing again. Where if you see, let's look at this. So what we have if it weighs 6,000 pounds and it's going 30 miles per hour versus it's being only 3,000 pounds going 30 miles per hour is double. But if we were to increase the speed by double with the same weight, it is four times as powerful or damaging. Inertia, one of two. Definition: inertia is a body at rest tends to remain at rest, and a body in motion tends to remain in motion in a straight line unless acted upon by an outside force. Weight transfer: when the brakes are applied at the wheel friction assemblies, only the wheels and tires begin to slow immediately. The rest of the vehicle, all of the weight carried by the suspension, attempts to remain in forward motion. And after that, we talk about the weight bias. The total weight of the vehicle does not change during a brake application. Only the amount supported by each axle. Front wheel drive FWD vehicles in particular have a forward weight bias. To deal with the extra load, the front brakes are much more powerful than the rear brakes, which makes sense because they're basically saying there's more pressure or more weight on the on the front, because that's where the engine is. I wonder, it's probably different if the engine is in the back. So that's one thing that we need to figure out. But we do know that when we talk about the rear brakes, they're not as strong as the back, as the front. That's the reason why a lot of times you used to see the drum brakes. You see a lot of the drum brake applications in the back, and then you see the disc application as far as having disc brakes and with calipers and things of that nature in the front. All right, so 97.4, inertia creates weight transfer that requires the front brakes to provide most of the braking force. So as you see, when the weight transfers inertia going forward, decreased weight on rear, less braking force needed, more braking force needed here, increased weight on front, that's that engine. All right, 97.5, front wheel drive vehicles have most of their weight over the front wheels. Powertrain. Coefficient of friction. Definition: the amount of friction between two objects or surfaces is commonly expressed as a value called the coefficient of friction. Static and kinetic friction. The static value is the coefficient of friction with the two friction surfaces at rest. The kinetic value is the coefficient of friction while these two surfaces are sliding against one another. Then we have 97.6. The static coefficient of friction of an object at rest is higher than the kinetic dynamic friction coefficient once in motion. So as you see, it's 200-pound force right here, 100-pound tensile force, and it's pulling. Okay, so block at rest, and then the block is in motion, and then it's 50 pounds of tensile force. Brake fade, one of them. Okay, brake fade. Definition: if repeated hard stops are performed, the brake system components can overheat and lose effectiveness, or possibly fail altogether. Mechanical fade. Mechanical fade occurs when a brake drum overheats and expands away from the braking line, the brake lining. Lining fade. The friction material overheats to the point where its coefficient of friction drops off. Then we have the gas fade. Under very hard braking, when a thin layer of hot gases and dust particles build up between the brake drum or rotor and lining. Water fade occurs when water gets in between the brake drum and the linings. Nine 7.7. Some heat increases the coefficient of friction, but too much heat can transfer it to drop off sharply. So if it's too much friction, it drops off. 9 7.8. One cause of brake fade occurs when the phenolic resin, a part of the friction material, gets so hot it vaporizes. The vaporized gas from the disc brake pads gets between the rotor and the friction pad. Because the friction pad is no longer, no braking force is possible. So talking about that gas, you see them pads. Alright. And that's a phenolic resin. It vaporizes. Nine 7.9. The gear selector is often called the PRNDL, pronounced Prindle, regardless of analogy. Deceleration rates are measured in units of feet per second feet per second. Oh my gosh. Typical deceleration rates. Comfortable deceleration is about 8.5 feet per second. Loose items in the vehicle fly about 11 feet per second. Brake temperatures 1300 degrees or higher during normal driving. 97.1.10 really. Rapid braking causes the brake friction material to wear more compared to gentle, less aggressive braking. That's the reason why sometimes you can't get mad at Granny, but at the same time, Granny, can you please hurry up, please? Get out the way, get out the way. All right. And brake friction materials are composed of relatively soft but tough and heat-resistant material to provide the friction between the movable part of the braking system, drum or rotor, and the stationary part of the braking system. Asbestos, one of two. Definition: asbestos is the term used to describe naturally occurring cellulite minerals that consist of long fibers. Asbestos hazards. Asbestos exposure can cause scar tissue to form in the lungs. This condition is called asbestosis. Asbestosis. The use of asbestos for brake lining was never abandoned completely. Semi-metallic friction material. Definition: the term semi-metallic refers to brake lining material that uses metal rather than asbestos in its formula. Non-asbestos ceramic friction material. Terminology: brake pads and lining that use synthetic materials such as armid fibers instead of steel. Carbon fiber friction material. Terminology: carbon fiber material is often called CFRC, carbon fiber reinforced carbon. It is composed of a carbon mix into which reinforcing carbon fibers are embedded. CFRC brakes provide constant friction coefficient whether hot or cold, low wear rates, and low noise development. Oh, yeah, what's up? Like some General Tso chicken or something? or orange chicken. It's up to you. Alright, let's look at it. Brake pads and environmental concerns. Copper is used in brake pads for heat transfer, strength, and to reduce fade. Copper is considered a pollutant. Legislation to eliminate copper in various states. Washington State's legislation mandates that all brake pads and shoes manufactured after January 1st, 2015 are required to have a leaf mark icon indicating the level of compliance with state friction material content legislation. 97.11. All boxes of brake linings in pads should be labeled with the leaf mark, which gives a visual clue as to the standard under which the brake friction materials meet certain state law regarding the amount of copper. So when you look at A, when it only has one leaf, this right here, it meets the 2015 standard, contains more than 5% of copper by weight. If it has the two leaves that are filled, or B, meets the 2021 standard, contains between 0.5% and 5% of copper by weight. And then if it is all three, meets the 2025 standard, contains less than 0.5% of copper by weight. And that'll be an N. All right, edge codes, 1 of 2. Purpose, starting in 1964, brake linings have been using a standardized way to identify the brake lining materials. Edge code information, company code, pad number, formulation code, vendor number, friction code, week number that brakes were made, environmental code, A, B, or N, year of manufacture. Edge code, coefficient of friction edge code. Then we have 97.12. The edge codes include a lot of information about the brake friction material. And I believe that's kind of like what, no, this wasn't what we were looking at earlier. This is on the brakes. So instead of, let's do it like, let's look at it. Because when it comes to the brakes, we knew the first part was vehicle type, then it was the width, then the aspect ratio, construction, rim diameter, load index, and speed rating. So with this edge, and this is talking about the brake material, the first, and this would be pads. Okay. And what I was talking about earlier was tires. All right, that was tires. So we have the company code. All right, then we have the pad number. Then we had the formulation code. Then you have the vendor number behind. From there, you have a friction code. I believe it's 2 letters normally. There is a week. So as you know, in a year, there's 52 weeks. 52 weeks out of a year. So I'm assuming this is saying that it was made in 2015 in December. And then you have an environmental code at the very end. that. And the year is the very end. All right. All right. As you see right here, see little, it might be on caliber pins or whatever. Trying to release it. So 97.13, the edge codes are now printed on the backing of the brake pad because there's too much required information that it often does not fit on the edge of the brake pad or shoe. See all that? Okay. 97.14, typical drum brake lining edge codes, showing the coefficient of friction. Codes for cold and hot are circled. See that FF right there. And what does that show? The coefficient of friction. All right. Let's get back to it. So the energy, a mass in motion is known as kinetic energy. The amount of friction between two surfaces is known as coefficient of friction. Why is copper being removed from brake pads? It is considered a pollutant. Then this is looking at that, what we got. It looks like the width is up front with that 245. The vehicle type is not, I don't see anything for the vehicle type, but we see the width. Then the aspect ratio is that 35. That Z is at ZB. So that's the material. The rim size is 20s. Outside the rim size, it's saying 95 miles per hour is where it can go. It can go up to 95 miles per hour. That's what this thing's saying. Oh, old school caliber. Oh man, look at the old school. Yeah. So what we got here? This is the makeup of a brake system. We have a pedal. The pedal. When we have a tie rod. The tie rod is initiated into the servo. Once it hits the servo, it's then going through the master cylinder. The master cylinder reservoir has the oil that goes through a hydraulic system where it's now going through the drum on all four tires, where it is now applying brake, and when it eases, it has a way of working with a hydraulic type of pressurized system. So that's the reason why it's bad to have air in the system. So you have to bleed out things. Let's go move around. Same thing. But this right here is saying this is a simplified dual circuit drum. So the other one is just regular, like a regular split. This is a dual. This is the simplified dual circuit drum. It has a combination valve. And this is a simplified single circuit drum brake system diagram. So we've already talked about it a few times. This is just a easier way to be able to look at it. So looking at the first letter represents the tire type. The next three digits represents the width of the tire. The 2 digits after that is the aspect ratio. The next digit is the construction type. I'm assuming R is for rubber. Then the next 2 digits represents the wheel diameter, meaning that if they say they're sitting on 20s but the thing says 18s, they're not 20s, they're 18s. If it says 19, they're 19s. All right. And then the next one is the load index. The load index is essentially saying what is the fastest you can drive this vehicle with, with great confidence in. So if you're driving this and you're going 95 miles per hour in it, I mean, it can work, but after a while it's not going to work as good as you think it can. And then we have the speed rating. Yeah, so that concludes that. Let's go ahead and start watching a few of the videos for over the week. And then once we're doing that, I will be looking at some of the old information. In fact, before we do that, let's no. We're gonna watch a few things to learn something, and then what we're gonna do is we are going to essentially gonna revise the next couple weeks. Really, the last week. We're gonna revise and figure out, what we're gonna be doing for the rest of the week, this weekend, and for the last week for breaks.
Let's start by understanding 2 important braking concepts: kinetic energy and friction. Kinetic energy is the energy possessed by an object in motion. Take, for example, these moving blocks. Their speed and weight combined give them kinetic energy. A heavier block will possess greater kinetic energy. Similarly, a faster moving block will also possess greater kinetic energy. Now, it's important to note that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be converted from one form into another. So, how do we slow our moving block once it's in motion? Well, we can convert its kinetic energy to heat using friction. But what is friction? Friction is the resistance an object experiences when one surface moves against another. As you can see, our block is now sliding along the floor, and friction is converting its kinetic energy into heat energy, slowing the block and eventually bringing it to a stop. A heavier or faster moving block possesses more kinetic energy. This means that more kinetic energy is converted to heat as friction slows the object. Now, let's take a look at a light vehicle braking system. At the front of our vehicle, we have disc brakes. They use calipers to squeeze a pair of brake pads against a brake disc, creating friction. The friction generated converts kinetic energy into heat, slowing the wheel. Some vehicles have disc brakes on both the front and rear wheels. But in our example, we have drum brakes. Drum brakes contain brake shoes. Friction is achieved by pushing these shoes against the surface of a rotating drum. Again, the friction generated converts kinetic energy into heat, slowing the wheel. Both disc brakes and drum brakes are controlled by a hydraulic system. When the brake pedal is pressed, hydraulic fluid is forced through hydraulic lines, activating the brakes. Rear brakes can also be controlled by a parking brake to hold the vehicle whilst parked and for assistance on hill starts. and that's the basics of a light vehicle braking system. Remember, vehicle brakes are safety-critical components, making a well-maintained braking system essential to all of us.
Tesla wanted $22,500 to fix the battery on a car worth only $20,000 because this owner bought a used Tesla with an expired battery warranty that was barely going 50 miles on a full charge. He brought it to Tesla service and they quoted him a shocking $22,500 for a complete battery replacement. He refused and took it to YouTuber Rich Rebuilds, who runs an independent Tesla repair shop. Rich opened the battery pack and found 96 individual battery modules inside, then tested every single one to find the problem. Only 2 out of 96 blocks were actually dead, but Tesla doesn't allow you to replace individual blocks, forcing customers to buy an entire battery for over $20,000. Rich replaced just the 2 dead blocks for only $5,000, exposing how Tesla overcharges for repairs that should cost a fraction of the price.
Don't be too lazy to move your leg to the dead pedal on the left, or I'll keep the bearing spinning and burn your clutch out in 5,000 miles. The wind is lifting me up. Don't drive off without pushing the hood down until you hear a solid click, or I'll let go at 60 miles an hour and smash the hood flat against your windshield. I have absolutely zero friction. Don't spray oily tire shine on the tread where I actually touch the road, or I'll slide you straight into a tree the very first time you touch the brakes. My teeth are being ripped off. Don't put the truck in 4 high on dry pavement, or I'll shatter into shrapnel and explode the transfer case right under your seat. Don't put the floor jack under the engine sump just to lift the car up, or I'll smash into the oil pickup tube and starve the engine of blood. Don't put your 20-pound backpack on the front seat and ignore the alarm, or I'll activate the passenger airbag and blow your laptop through the roof in a crash. Large leak detected! Don't just walk away after fueling without clicking the gas cap 3 times. Don't believe the Filled for Life sticker. Change the gear oil, or I'll turn your gears into smooth metal paste and howl like a wolf. Don't forget to take that piece of cardboard out of the grill when summer starts, or I'll heat stroke the engine and blow the head gasket into the next dimension. Don't pour thick oil stabilizer into a modern engine with tight tolerances, or I'll fail to adjust the timing and the engine will shake itself to death.
Customer complaint, my car doesn't drive straight. Let's get this thing on the lift and see what's going on. Going to verify the customer complaint, and yes, I can see that the wheel does not turn correctly. The wheel shaft should not be able to slide up and down like this. After some further diagnostics, I can see that this is missing a washer and a bushing. I'm gonna go ahead and pop off this rivet and get it fixed. I'm going to slide out the axle and install the missing parts. Here's the washer and then the bushing. I'm going to use a specialty rivet installer to get this back loose for a mechanic spec. We're going to let it roll out in this vehicle. Headlights look good. I'm going to recommend new tires to this customer at 1/32 of an inch because they're due to be replaced. Quick inspection on the gas cap because he had an evap leak. Yep, we're good to go. Brake lights are in check. And make sure the horn works.
So let's go ahead and go over it. Looking at the data from the last assessments, let me look and see what we had. They weren't all good, but they weren't all bad. Okay, where is it? All right, so our main focus, based on what we've seen, engine diagnostic, cylinder head, valve, train, timing system, engine block, and pistons. So that'll be all of A1 and what we need to focus on. Oh, this is something different. That's different. Those are skills that you need to build. Here we go. Okay, so right now the cylinders on the second go round, I had like more like a 50%. Drum brakes, it'll say about 50 as well. Engine block, we'll say that was about 60%. Hydraulic system, let's say that's about 60. Disc brakes, 60. Fuel, ignition, electrical, and exhaust, we'll say that was 80. All those lights, we're going to give it 80%. And as well as general engine, we're going to give it 90. All right. So in this case, what this means, the cylinder head and valve is going to be another 2 sessions, as well as drum brakes. Everything else is going to be 1 session. So that means that we're going to go through and maximize what we can for 1 whole day for the cylinder heads and 1 whole day for the drum brakes, and then from there just sections of 1 full session of the engine block, 1 full session of the hydraulic system. In fact, I'm going to merge the hydraulic system and disc brakes. We're going to merge those with each other. All right, and that's going to be one session is going to be needed there. So, all right, and after that, when we talk about fuel, ignition, electrical, and exhaust, we're going to also merge that with the lights. Yeah, we're going to merge that, and then we're going to have the general on its own. Once we're done with that, yeah. And again, that goes, right now we are in the 3rd round where we are reorganizing based on qualitative and quantitative data. Qualitative and quantitative data, which that's what we're doing now. And then we're going to have the 4th round is focus on worst 3. And our worst 3 is essentially cylinder head, drum brakes, and after that, that's really the only 2 I have to say that's worse. I mean, because we're tied for 3rd, but the 2 that's worse, we got 2 that's bad. So that means that we're going to focus solely on those. So cylinder head, whenever we get back into that our last week, we're going to focus solely on that Monday. All right. And then we're going to solely focus on drum brakes Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, we're going to be able to take care of both the engine block and the hydraulic system brake block. And then on that Thursday, we can essentially take care of both the fuel, ignition, electrical, exhaust with the letters, the warning letters, and then take care of the general engine. And by Friday, we could then essentially get ready to rock, because at that point, we're gonna go ahead and set up a due date on when we're gonna get it. My only thing about that, Tuesday, Wednesday, we may have to do it after. So because Tuesday, I'm able to get half of it, not all of it, because we are going to be going to Ohio to pick up that box truck. So because we're going to Ohio to pick up that box truck, this is more of a sliding schedule. So the same way that I didn't get to what we're getting to right now, and this is technically supposed to be Wednesday, but it's Friday. That's the reason I'm doing something Saturday. So the 5th round was supposed to be shot work and retesting and questions answers. So I guess what my whole thing will be, I'll be in the garage getting like little cards and stuff like that. Security camera I already got up in there. You know what I'm saying? One from the front and back. You know, and after that, yeah, it's a lot of things. So yeah, so for the weekend, that's what we're gonna focus on. And then when Monday comes, that's what we're gonna be doing the cylinder heads. Tuesday's gonna be drum brake. So yeah, that's how we're gonna do it.